Hello, everybody. Welcome to our session. I'm Andy Forrest, a Senior Creative Technologist at the Scratch Foundation, and I'm really excited to bring you this panel of incredible people. So we have here with us today, we have Na Huang, and she is the initiative lead at STEAM for Vietnam, which is a nonprofit foundation dedicated to providing free world-class STEAM education to the youth of Vietnam. She's been instrumental in designing a professional learning program that helps teachers integrate generative AI into Scratch, into their instruction, to build students' computational thinking skills, preparing the next generation to thrive in an AI-driven future. We also have Dale Lane, a software developer at IBM and the creator of Machine Learning for Kids, which is a free web-based tool which introduces children to artificial intelligence through hands-on experience, allowing them to train their own machine learning models and use them to build creative projects in Scratch. So believing that the best way to understand technology is to build with it, Dale has created a platform that since its launch in 2017 has been used by thousands of schools, code clubs, and families around the world. And then finally, we have Marlon Kakoti, and he's the programs manager at the Jenga Hub, a community-based innovation hub in Tanzania. He leads the Coding Beyond Sound project, an inspiring initiative that uses Scratch and AI-powered tools to create inclusive and accessible coding experiences for deaf and hard of hearing students by integrating Tanzanian Sign Language. So I'll pass it over to Na so that she can tell us all a bit more about her initiative.
Hello everyone, my name is Nga and I'm come from STEAM for Vietnam. And before I begin my presentation, I would love to show you a short video. It will give you a glimpse into the challenge that we're facing in Vietnam and how Scratch and AI helping us to respond. And you will also see like a real classroom teachers and students across our country.
Individual Vietnamese students are outperforming those from wealthier nations on global tests like PISA, showing drive, discipline, and talent. But our education system still ranks only 60. The gap is huge. To truly compete globally, we must start with our teachers. However, empowering 2 million of teachers to unlock the potential of 24 million students is a real national level challenge that can be solved by a conventional approach. Limited resources, overwhelming class size, language barriers. Vietnamese teachers face them all. Luckily, AI can change all of that starting now. Individual Vietnamese students are
So in the last 4 years, we taught Scratch and computational thinking to over 100,000 students. That sounds like a lot, right? But actually, in reality, it's only for 0.4% of all K-12 students in Vietnam. So that is when we realize that if we want to bring creative coding to every student, we can't just teach them directly. We need to support teachers. So that is the reason why we build a professional development program just for the teachers. And then in our training, we combine Scratch and generative AI, and they work really well together. So with Scratch, the teachers can create interactive projects to help gamify the lesson, and students also can build game, animation, and stories that sharpen their computational thinking, creativities, and problem-solving skill. And then we add generative AI onto the mix, and then the teachers can use it like quickly to create things like story prompt, character ideas, or image that fit the lesson topic. So instead of like spending an hour to making like teaching material, teacher now can spend their time focus more on helping students to explore and create. So here is like two amazing example from our teachers. So if you see on the left, this is a project about VAC model in science. And this is about like how farmer in Vietnam can build sustainable ecosystem. And on the right, it is a project about using renewable material. And then I also put the link there so you can access the Scrap project as well. And then if you look detail at the note and credit section, you will see the teacher sharing that all of the character and music in this project were designed using generative AI. So because of the image and the music were created like specifically for the topic, so it had matched the lesson goal very, very well. And can you imagine like how much time and effort the teacher can save by using AI to create this teaching material? Um, and then since we launched training, we have reached over 80,000 teachers. And our first cohort includes the teachers from all provinces in Vietnam. So that means our program has reached all teachers in the country. And then after that first launch, we ran a extended program in Điện Biên. So Điện Biên is one of the poorest province in Vietnam that where like most of the family earn just around $160 per month for the whole family. And most of the people in Điện Biên are ethnic minority. So we believe that if the teachers and students in Điện Biên, the most difficult province in Vietnam, can succeed with Scratch and AI, then we know it is like possible for every children in Vietnam to learn about Scratch and AI. And so what is next? So we are scaling up the train the trainer program, and this will have us to reach 2 million the teacher in the coming years. And our vision is bold but simple. We want every Vietnamese children to master computational thinking and creative thinking to scratch, and also learn how to use AI in a smart and responsible way, because we believe that like creativities and technology to belong to everyone. So thank you for listening to my presentation, and I would love to pass to Dale.
Brilliant. Thank you for that now. Hello, everyone. My name is Dale, and Andy gave you a bit of a flavor of machine learning for kids, which is a tool that I started about 8.5 years ago. So long ago that when it started, Scratch was a Flash plugin. And I'm sort of showing my age of describing Scratch, as you can see in this screenshot here of what it used to look like. But the idea behind it is, as Andy mentioned, to learn about AI in a hands-on way through making AI projects. So it's a modified version of Scratch with some extra blocks to work with AI models, and a training tool that supplements it, that sits alongside to help kids work on their projects. Let me show you what I mean. I'll give you a couple of quick examples, just because I know some of you won't have seen machine learning for kids before, so I want to give you a quick flavor. So what you're seeing here is like a basketball game where you've got to choose the power and the direction you want to shoot the ball. And every time you score a basket, you can see this block down here. It's adding the coordinates of where the ball started and the power and the direction, the angle that you chose, to some training data. So what you're doing is you're collecting examples of, when the ball was here, I used this power and this angle. And then, if I sort of switch to one I prepared earlier, after you've played for a bit, and maybe you get the rest of your classmates to play with you in the same game as well, you collect lots of examples, and you can use this to train a machine learning model, because computers are really good at spotting patterns in large amounts of data. So what you get is something like this, where you can put that model that you've trained in charge of the ball. So then it scores and it gets really good. And if you imagine if you had to try and do that without a machine learning model, if you tried to do the trigonometry involved to work out that angle, this is sort of showing just how machine learning makes it easier for us to do some really complex things. I'll give you one other quick example, because we can train machine learning models to recognize all sorts of things, not just sort of predict numbers. So in this project, students are writing postcodes, as we call them in the UK, or zip codes, maybe you're familiar with. So they draw onto an on-screen canvas in this tool that I mentioned that supports the Scratch modifications. So they're training the computer to recognize this. So then they can switch across into Scratch. And then when they draw a postcode, like if I do, oh, that's difficult to do on a trackpad. If they do GU, then it uses the model they trained to recognize where that letter should go. But like I say,
that's kind of what I've been doing for a while. But what we're talking about today is generative AI, because that's the form of AI everyone is getting so excited about, and it's really captured the public's attention. But I think the same kind of thing works here too. That same idea of get students to build it for themselves and learn in that way. What I'm showing you here is a project a student made about volcanoes. So they collected some documents about volcanoes, and they're just pages from encyclopedias, from child-friendly science websites. You can sort of see the titles that go with it here. And when they've collected that corpus, they can use that to see what kind of knowledge a machine learning model can derive from that, and how a generative AI can use the knowledge it derives from those documents to decide what word to generate next. So you can see here it found the volcano, and then after that, in all those documents, it found that it 7 times after that it came with is. And by playing with these kinds of controls, which are the same controls we use when we do this kind of AI project in the real world, you can influence the likelihood that different words will get chosen, as you can sort of see in this visualization here. Or you can control which words are candidates, are options for being chosen at all. So the students get to see the trade-offs that we make when we deploy a generative AI model, and the impact it has on how the model behaves. Is the model going to be very random, coming up with different text each time, which is really good for like a creative writing task? Or do you want it to be factually accurate? Do you want it to stick with what it's found frequently in the corpus, which is good for like a knowledge retrieval task? So if I, and when you start generating text, the students can drill in and see, well, why is the computer picking each word? And how does that relate to the text that they gave it in the start? So it's that same idea as in the hoops or in the postcode project I showed you, that idea of by building a model for yourself, it starts to give you an insight into how the models behave, how the technology is created, what the limitations are, why do they hallucinate, why do they make mistakes? And then with all of that, you bring it to life by taking models into Scratch. So here you're seeing a creative writing task using a generative AI, that same kind of technology you see in things like ChatGPT, to generate new text. So you can see the prompt we've given it here of, make me a story, give it to me one sentence at a time. So here it's saying, once upon a time in the majestic castle nestled deep within the hills. And if I press write, it will give me the next bit of the story. And if I hit the green flag again, I get a totally different story, because that generative AI is creating something new. And the students are not only able to use that generative AI in their projects, but by creating models for themselves, they start to learn a bit about how these things are made. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'm sure we'll have lots more to talk about later, but for now, I'll hand over to Marlon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marlon, and I'm the programs manager at Jenga Hub. So let's proceed to the next slide. So basically, at Jenga Hub, what we work on is we have a Kalimani app, and Kalimani is the first ever AI-powered Tanzanian Sign Language learning app in Tanzania. So basically, it is designed to improve classroom inclusion for the deaf and hard of hearing students so that they can master foundational literacy and numeracy, and also to participate in learning units such as climate change, mental health, children's rights, and sexual reproductive health rights. So basically, Kalimani started with the vision of actually bringing coding to students who are deaf and also hard of hearing. So what at Jenga Hub, what we did is develop an app that can actually help them to learn without having to hear everything. So basically, that's what Kalimani does. To the next slide. So recently, we've started working with this. We've incorporated Scratch with learning. So basically how it works is we use machine learning. So we have different medias in the Tanzanian Sign Language, whereby we use that media to feed the machine that we have so that it can generate animations that actually mimic the Tanzanian Sign Language. After generating the animations that mimic the Tanzanian Sign Language, we use the animations to actually develop different lesson units. The lesson units enables the students to understand how it's actually going, how it's actually doing. We have a video that I will show later on that will explain everything. So I'm going to share it. Hello everyone, my name is Malon Kakoti and I'm speaking today from Tanzania, here at Jengaham, home to a bold new frontier in inclusive learning. At Jenga Hub, we believe that every child deserves a seat at the table of innovation, including those who are deaf and hard of hearing. That belief gave birth to Kalimani, Tanzania's first ever artificial intelligence powered Tanzanian Sign Language app. Kalimani is more than an app. It's a bridge to belonging. It's built to empower deaf students with foundational skills in literacy, numeracy, and most importantly, voice, even if that voice is in their hands. But we didn't start there. Through Scratch, we saw an opportunity to expand that voice, to give our students not only tools to learn, but also tools to create. By integrating Kalimani with Scratch, we are ensuring that deaf and hard of hearing learners can code, design, and build just like any other child. And with that, just as much curiosity, joy, and power. We are creating custom Scratch modules where sign language becomes part of the coding journey, allowing students to build animations, games, and stories in their language and feel seen, heard, and included. We are also equipping teachers with tools and training so that they can facilitate inclusive digital classrooms where no one is left behind. Today, Kalimani is scaling across 8 regions in Tanzania. Our goal? To reach over 80,000 learners with inclusive technology and transformative education. We are teaching beyond the basics too, covering topics like climate change, mental health, children's rights, and sexual and reproductive health, all through sign language and interactive tech. Imagine a child who has never spoken aloud, now telling the story through a Scratch animation. A deaf student creating a climate action game. A girl once excluded, now teaching others how to code in sign language. That's the power of inclusive design. That's what happens when technology meets empathy. Okay, so yes, that was.
At Jenga Hub and through Kalimani, we are not just teaching tech, we are rewriting the future of who gets to use it, build with it, and lead with it. To everyone here, inclusion isn't a feature, it's a foundation. And when we code for everyone, everyone grows. Thank you, and let's keep building a world where every child, no matter how they communicate, can learn, create, and thrive.
So that was the end of the video, and the video actually summarizes everything from how we feed our machine with the media that we get for the Tanzanian language, and developing the curriculum or the lesson units that we use not only for the students but well as the teachers, training the teachers of how to use this Kalimani app to teach the students to use Scratch. So that is a short and summarized way of what Kalimani does. And yeah, welcome. I'm going to pass this back to Andy to continue. Yes, thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. That's really exciting, inspiring work that you've all shown us there. And so I have so many questions that I want to ask you. But before I do that, I just want to encourage the audience. I'm sure you have all kinds of questions and things to share about what you've just seen as well. So I encourage you to ask your questions in the chat, and we'll get to those after. Once I ask my questions, we have a bit of discussion first. And if you do have a question for someone specific, then just be specific, because we won't get to your question till later, so we may have lost the context of it. So just be specific, and then we'll get to as many of those interesting questions that we can. I see some coming in already, which is fantastic. I want to go back to the beginning with all of our panelists. And obviously you all saw a unique opportunity to connect AI with the Scratch community and the Scratch tools. I'm just wondering if you could share the story of the spark. I find a lot of social innovators have a story of like what led you to create your project, and just what kind of problem or passion drove you at the start. And that could be for any one of you.
I'll jump in then. I've been working in AI machine learning for many years now. And for me, it started with trying to find a way to explain it to my kids. When my kids were very little, I could tell them about the technology and what it does, but the penny didn't drop, the light bulb didn't light up, whatever sort of metaphor you want to use. They didn't really understand what I did when I went to work every day. So, but it was a holiday, a rainy holiday. And I got them to actually play with some of the IBM's AI tech. And we built a Guess Who game. This game where you've decided on a face, and then the other player has to describe it, like, are they wearing a hat? Do they have glasses? And we used AI to do that, like face recognition and understanding the questions. And then they built that with me over a couple of afternoons. And by the time we'd finished that, suddenly they got it. They knew what Daddy did at work every day. And that sort of showed me that kids can totally use AI, build with AI, understand the principles behind it, if it's made accessible to them, and if they're given a sandbox, a space to play in. And Scratch is an ideal sandbox. It embodies that idea of experimenting and exploring and tinkering and just trying ideas out. So it was a really natural fit to bring those two worlds together.
Thanks, Dale. Na or Marlon, do you have a spark story? It's so great to hear Dale's connection to his own life, his own kids, and just seeing what he had available to him, and seeing that he could bring that to other people in a bigger way.
And so for my side, basically what Jenga Hub does is teach about technology. So robotics, coding is what we do in mostly government schools as well as some private school. So in one of the partner schools that we collaborate with, they have a section, or let's say, they have a section for deaf students. So basically when we go there, we only interact with the normal student. So then we meet this these deaf students, and they're like trying to communicate with us or trying to actually see what we're doing. They're very curious on what we're doing, but we have no way to actually interact with them. So what we did is actually we talked with the teachers, and let's say like we talked with the teachers and we said like we should come up with something or a solution that we can actually use for them, a learning system or a learning app that we can use for them to actually learn different things, including coding. So that's where the idea or the spark came from, and eventually it led to the Kalimani app, in which it started as just foundational units, numeracy, knowledge, such as that. But now we are actually including Scratch to it so that they may learn coding. And actually, we believe that we can actually go further by using the AI to actually enable them to do much more with the Kalimani app. So that's my story.
Ah, what a great starting point, though, that you saw these kids that wanted to participate, and that you had a communication gap. So you used your skills of as a technologist to build something to bridge that gap, and now you're finding more things to bring to them. That's really inspiring. How about you, Nak?
Yeah, I think our story start with like our ambition to bring computational thinking to all students in Vietnam, and we have been like teaching Scratch and AI for students for 4 years, and we only reach like 0.4% of all A for all K-12 students in Vietnam. So that is the reason why we're thinking about a program to have teachers to actually learn about computational thinking, AI, and Scratch. And then they can help us to really educate more and more students in Vietnam. So that is where we start with it. And we really think like AI will bring a chance for teachers in Vietnam to reduce the gap in education and also deal with the problem of like really big class size and language barrier. So yeah, so that is how we form our trainer program, and still like developing it right now.
Fantastic. And actually, you mentioned AI, and of course, we're all talking about AI, but AI can actually mean a lot of different things. So I'm just wondering, just from all of your perspective, what's the most kind of exciting and positive role for AI in a creative learning environment like Scratch, where the creative learning is such a big part of it? And yeah, just wondering, you've been all doing this for a while. What do you think the kind of most exciting and positive role is here for us?
I think from my side, it's about enabling kids to make projects that they couldn't do without AI. Projects that would be too complex, too time consuming, too difficult, if not for a machine learning model. And I think doing it in Scratch also makes a really clear point that it's not replacing the need to code. You know, it's kind of it's a step up. It's an extra step. It's building on top of what they've already learned. So I think what makes it exciting is that idea of all the stuff you've learned about coding is really valuable, but with this extra tool in your toolbox, you can make even more impressive, even more magical, even more creative things.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with Dale on that ideas, and I think the most exciting things, like the most exciting role for AIs, will be like a creative co-pilot. So it doesn't replace the imagination, but it helps students to spark it. So, for example, like in a classroom, and when students like being stuck with their ideas, so they don't know like what type of character that they make or like how to start their story. So I think Gen AI can give them like ideas about um, a starting point for a character or a way to start their project. So AI is not like working for them, but like just give them some like scaffolding and something for students to build on it. So I think that is an important role of AI in creative learning environment like Scratch.
Yeah, just to add up on what Na and Dale have just said, is from my side, I can say that AI is the best collaborating tool that we have out there. So it's actually a pretty tool for a child to have, to, like, just what Na said, that you can actually get ideas of how to start a certain project, because initially a kid can't even imagine what he or she can do with this, but through AI they can actually do it. They can imagine it and actually do it. So AI is a very big collaborative tool for a human being. Yeah. So thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that sentiment. And with the work that we're doing at Scratch too, we're also thinking of that, how AI can be a co-pilot, a collaborator, an assistant in that work. And there's a lot of tension in that too sometimes. And I'm just wondering, because there's so much potential for creative enhancement, and I just wanted to ask about like the the difference between replacing your creativity and enhancing it. And like in my work, I asked my son Rory, he's 11, so he's like a core Scratch user too, and we're struggling with the idea of like remixing a project versus remixing something that the AI made. And like I was just asking him, like, what's the difference? And he actually, just so simple to him, like he said, well, the first one's made by a person, and I care about a person. And so I'm just wondering, like, how does that show up in your work? Like, where the world's struggling with, like, where generative AI can enhance rather than replace creativity. And I'm just wondering how that shows up in your work, and what you all think of it as, being people that have been working in this area for some time.
That question is definitely getting harder. Like when I started doing machine learning for kids, that question was easy because the gap between what a human can do and what an AI could do was so stark that it was easy to say, well, there's always going to be a role for humans. Computers are good at automating things, but to be creative needs a human. Only humans can be creative. But in the last few years, that the gap is getting smaller. Like we are seeing machines increasingly able to do things that we would have thought of as being creative. So it is getting harder to sort of say, well, how do we need to decide what we think is important. And I think that, the point your son made about that idea of a connection with the artist or the author is important, because we need to decide what is important to us when we read a story, watch a movie, listen to a song, whatever it is. Because if we don't want to sort of sleepwalk into a world where we just allow machines to generate all of this stuff, we do need to sort of raise that question, have that debate in society about what is the role of a machine, what is the role of a human, what is the value in artistic works. And I think, that idea of a connection with the artist is a really important one.
Yeah, I think I also agree with their ideas, and I think that is such a like a powerful quote from Rory's, and a really important question to ask. And I like, on my opinion, I think what makes human different from AI and robot is our ability to connect and work together. And I think like AI can do so many impressive things, but like it can't replace what happened when people like sitting down and working together. So we have like human connection, and we have ability to collaborate with each other. So I feel like, for example, like in Scratch, when a kid like remixing a project or do like pair programming or build on each other ideas, they are not just learning about coding, they are learning like how to communicate, how to listen, and how to care about others thinking. So that is like human collaboration, and that is like I think a core skill in a new generation of learning. And I do really believe in communication skill, and that is like how our brain work together to expand the knowledge and create creative new thing.
That's a really powerful sentiment. Yeah, we gain that from collaborating with each other. And yeah, and like Dale is saying, we have to make these choices around what kinds of creative tools we want to use so that we're empowering artists and caring about the artist who's using these tools rather than caring about the tool alone. I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Marlon.
So nothing much, but I agree with Dale. I agree with Na on what they just said. So basically, as your son just said, that one is made by a person that I care about, the other one is made by a robot. So basically, when we watch music, when we listen to music, when we watch a movie, when we watch football, what we care about is actually the person that is actually doing that thing, and not actually the robot. So we, as Justel said, that we have to make choices, that what is more important, or what does really matter to us. So is it the person or is it the AI? So basically, as we just said, that AI is a tool to just help us do things. So it should just remain that, and we shouldn't let AI disrupt our mode of communication, our mode of connections with other humans. So basically, instead of AI disrupting that, AI should actually enable more connection with fellow humans. So like getting more time to actually spend time with each other, connecting with each other. So AI should do what it's supposed to do, and humans should stick to what they in connecting with each other. So that's what actually makes us humans: communication, interacting, and let's just leave AI to do the AI stuff, or like, yeah. So that's this, guys.
I love that, and I love your metaphor of like even like watching sports. Like we care about the people and the performer in the athlete in the sports, and what came to mind too is like one of the things I love to watch is BattleBots, which is actually robots competing, and obviously a lot of tech. But the interviews with the people who made the robots and the tools they use, like that's probably my favorite part, is like connecting with the people. Not the that strikes me as another metaphor for AI, like just using it as a tool for the things that you're creating, but it's a person's intentions that are coming to life rather than an AI's intentions coming to life, so that we keep that connection between each other to talk about that and collaborate. And that's, I think, really prominent in the way that that teaching is developing too, like with 21st century skills and the kind of ideas that we're moving to talk about creativity and collaboration and communication and critical thinking, rather than these just kind of memorizable skills. And those are all about connecting with each other. And that brings me to think of a question about your work in the community and just working with communities of learners and educators. And I'm just wondering if, like, as you bring these advanced things out to these places, well, what's the most sort of surprising or unexpected thing that you've seen a child or a teacher or an adult or anybody to create or discover while using your AI powered tools, or moments that you were proud of that you helped to kind of facilitate? That's a question for anybody.
Okay,
I've been really pleasantly surprised by how even young children can really engage in discussions about ethics in AI. You let them experiment with it, you let them play with it in a hands-on way, and they can have surprisingly nuanced discussions and debate. They won't use phrases like ethics, obviously, but kids have an innate sense of fairness, of what they think is right and wrong, and what they think is fair. And if you introduce it in the right way, you can have some really interesting debates about how this technology should be applied, where it should be applied, even with a group of 7-year-olds. So yeah, I love, and I'm sure all of us who spend a lot of time working with groups of kids will understand this. The questions that kids can ask can be so smart and insightful and thought-provoking, that I'm consistently positively sort of surprised by that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, they're real human beings that can discuss these things and think them through and deserve to be involved in that conversation too. That's really great to hear. Nah, or Marlon, if you had anything to add to that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think like I work the most with the teachers. So one of the like proudest moment for me has been like seeing how creative teachers can be when they can using like Scratch and AI alongside together. So I have seen language art teachers helping students to write a story with AI and then turn that into an animated Scratch project. I also see in like science class when students can use AI to generate image about ecosystem and then program to make it like interactive between like all the component. So it was like a mix of like coding, storytelling, and science modeling like all in one. And I really surprised when like the teachers can come from like many disciplines. So like from history, math, biology, or ELA. So they found a way to bring Scratch and AI together in their lesson. And even after like our trainer programs, they also create their own community to share their resource and the way that they can use Scratch and AI together. So that it's become like a big community and they learn with each other. So that is like so fascinating and like inspiring for me to see how the teachers learn and use AI and Scratch together.
That's pretty great. Yeah, that's nice to see. And that connects to a question I saw in the chat too. Somebody was asking about just like how can we look at these tools and these things that you've just shown us, and I'm 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 sure people are looking forward to seeing like even the kind of scratch projects that come out of these things. So yeah, so maybe we can find a way to share some links to the things that you've been doing, either in the chat that can be passed while we're answering other questions, or we'll figure out some way for you to share what you want to share with it back to everybody. Um, yeah, that's super interesting. Anything else to add to that question?
Yes. So the surprising thing for me was, as you said, like what we mostly do is make technology accessible for students that don't have access to technology. So one time we were actually visiting one of the schools that have the deaf students, and we were actually introducing Scratch to them using Kalimani. So basically, they were very curious of how actually we can actually use it to create animation, stories, games. So I just taught the basics, and after that, I just left them to actually design it for themselves. After a few minutes, I just saw the students actually making animations, some creating wonderful stories, engaging stories, as well as games. So that was actually something that was really inspiring for me, because seeing deaf students who actually didn't think that they could have access to such technology actually creating something meaningful, that it just creates this story or this passion in them that actually drives for betterment in the future. So that was the thing that was surprising for me.
That's fantastic. And you know it's a real tool that you've introduced them to if they're using it for their own purposes like that. That's the best part, when you now they're empowered to do something new for their own results after you've done that. That's so great. So we're nearing on about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we have some time for the questions that are coming in through the chat. But maybe we can just quickly wrap up with one quick last question for everybody, of just like if we imagine a child using your tools. So like Marlon was just talking about, like seeing something happen, that child. I'm just wondering, like, what's one skill or mindset that you hope that they could carry with them into the future as the result of these experiences that you're bringing to them, and then we'll get to the audience chat questions.
Yeah. So basically, the one thing that I would feel that would actually the children could actually take in for the future was actually an open, innovative, and creative mind. That is the word. It's two things. One thing, yeah, it's called creativity. They say that creativity is the one thing that I hope that they get from actually seeing this, because it's like their minds become open, like they can do a lot of things just by keeping this block here, here, making them together, and I get this result. So it's like a mind-opening thing for them. So them being able to actually be creative with that, doing different stuff, doing different things, is the one thing I feel like it's a skill that's the most unique one, and they can use in future to develop anything. As long as you have creativity and you understand how you actually do it, it's something that they can use. It's a very vital tool for them in the future.
Yeah, I'd echo that. With the Machine Learning for Kids site, I make worksheets available. I copied the idea from Code Club, the idea of step-by-step instructions. Follow this recipe and you've made an AI project. And I like it when I see that kids have done that. But what I love even more is when I've seen that kids have invented new projects and new ideas, of their own that had nothing to do with any of my ideas. And what I love of those most of all is when I've seen students make something with an idea how they could help one of their classmates or how they could help their family. And that idea of, if the one thing that would be lovely to see is seeing how can AI help? How can AI help me make my friend's life or my family's life easier, better? That is sparking that kind of creativity is I really love to see.
Anything to add to that quick before we get to the questions?
No, I think those sounds like all beautiful ideas. So I love all that.
Wonderful. Great. Okay, so let's get to some of the questions. So one question, the first one that came in was just about what do you suggest to help work against learned bias in generative AI? And so that's a good one. That comes up a lot.
Yeah, I think that is really, really important to learn about bias in generative AI. So in fact, in our trainer program, when we work with the teacher to explore AI, the first lesson is about what is generative AI, and the second lesson immediately it is about bias. So when you know about generative AI, you need to know about bias. And I think our best way is to let the teachers and students know where the bias come from in the process of AI generating things, so they can aware of different sorts of bias that are happening, and being aware of that so they can be critical thinking on the result that AI is given to us. And I think another reason is because another thing that why we start with the teachers, because I feel like generative AI is a very open-ended world, and it can be very productive, can do impressive thing, but it also sometimes has a lot of bias and harmful things. So we want to start with the teachers so the critical thinking is stronger, so they can use AI in a responsible way, and then after that they can have educate students how to use AI in a smart and creative and responsible way.
Fantastic. And I might add one small thing on behalf of Dale. So one thing I've found is just getting them to poke at the edges of stuff and discover the bias and discover bias that they have personal knowledge about. So Dale's tool, where you can make these storytelling things inside of Scratch, find out what kind of biases those stories might have, and just make a story about something you love, like Pokemon, and make it say things that are really detailed that require detailed and intricate knowledge of the latest Pokemon that it may not have in its training material, and see what it gets wrong or what it's biased about. And just poke at the edges and then talk about it. It's a really fun way to do it. So maybe I go to the next question too, since we don't. To keep on time. So one question was, what could be the first steps with Scratch and AI? What do you suggest? That's a really good one, because people are trying to get started. So where would you recommend that they do that?
A project I use a lot when I'm working with a group for the first time is sentiment analysis, training an AI to recognize the sentiment, the tone in natural language. So the way the kids do that is they create two buckets. One bucket, they have to type in examples of the nicest, kindest, loveliest compliments they can think of. like 5 or 6 of them, and the other bucket, the meanest, cruelest insults they can think of. And it's very silly, and they all have a lot of fun trying to come up with the meanest things they can think of while their teacher's watching. And you train a model so that it starts to learn patterns in the use of language, and then you make a character that if you say something nice to it, it smiles. If you say something mean to it, it looks sad. You can do that in 30, 40 minutes. I've done that with groups of like 6-year-olds because it's really quick and easy. And if they struggle with typing, they can collectively, a class of 30 can each do 1 sentence. So they only have to come up with 1 example. But seeing how those examples can cause an AI to be able to repeat that is that sort of light bulb moment that gets them started on that journey.
Love it. That's really great. Is anyone, Na or Marlon, do you have anything to add to that about like maybe specifically about getting started with any generative AI things? That's since we're also talking about that.
This is not a promotion, but I highly recommend Machine Learning for Kids. I has been using machine learning for kids when I think since 2018, and it is really helpful for my students to learn about AI and explore about AI. So to start, I highly recommend like Machine Learning for Kids or maybe some like embedded AI into Scratch. I'm not recommend generative AI at the beginning because it is like very wide open and you need to be like educated in the way of using it. So to protect our kids, so I really recommend like a tool like Machine Learning for Kids to like create a space for kids to start learning about AI. But at the same time, it is like a well-developed platform to like protect the kid from like being harmful in the online environment.
Fantastic. And that's another related question to that maybe is somebody asked like what do you think at what age the students will be able to handle the AI workflow is the question that came in. They didn't mention generative AI or non-generative AI, but I did notice like obviously you do not in some of your work there is some generative AI used in some of the things you demonstrated. I'm just wondering, I love that setting it up with other things. I learned about AI first and all those things before you're ready into that, but I'm just wondering at what kind, this question about what age you think that they can handle that generative part as well once they are set up in the way you suggest.
Yeah, I think that is a very difficult question that I don't know exactly number that
Me neither. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
You can imagine like for example, like an iPad, like we think about like 5 or 6 years kid can use an iPad, but nowadays like it can be like 2 or 3 years old. So
I'm sorry to that it cut you off, but I think we only have a couple of seconds left. So I better wrap it up there. And then we were going to talk more about the AI plans that Scratch has at the session this afternoon at 1:50. So we're going to do a live demo and talk a bit more about that. But thank you everyone so much. That was just really fantastic. I really got a lot out of that, and I'm sure that our audience did as well. So everybody take care, and we will see you at the other sessions soon.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.